We'll go ahead and get started. Just a couple housekeeping personnel notes before I make a brief statement and answer questions. Two things. One, quarterback Bram Kohlhausen has left our program, and he's enrolled at L.A. Harbor College out in California. And junior college transfer Markeith Ambles will be here today and will begin classes tomorrow. Having said those two items, I've done more talking since the end of last season, it seems like, than I would have preferred to. I don't mind it, but we're getting close to being done talking at this point. So I'm going to make a few brief comments and then certainly stay here as long as you'd like to talk about any subjects you ask me about or answer any questions. But our guys are ready to go, and everybody within our program is. We're 3 days away now. We've had great 3 weeks of preparation, of practice. And I've said this before, and I'll certainly say it again. The young men are ready to tackle somebody else, score touchdowns against somebody else, and go out and compete Friday night and show everybody what this 2013 University of Houston football team is going to look like. So I'm excited for the game to get here. We've got practice this afternoon, be about an hour and 45 minutes in helmets and shoulder pads. Then we'll go for about an hour tomorrow just in helmets and what we call shocks, just a light device that they wear on their shoulders. And then we'll get into a walk through Thursday and head to the hotel and get ready for Friday night. So we're looking forward to it, and it'll be here before we know it. Any questions or any subjects you'd like me to talk about?
I know it's probably a little bit quick, Coach. You may not even know the answer, but a rough estimate on how quick it would probably take Markeith to get up to speed, including the whole acclimation period and all that? Well,
we've got an extensive checklist of things he's got to go through, certainly with compliance, getting a physical, things academically, just with school tomorrow for him. So he certainly will not play Friday night. And in my mind, the Rice game number 3 after the bye week, will be kind of a target for him to get up to speed and see where he fits in with us offensively.
Coach, I know you said everybody was ready to go, but have you been preparing any differently this season than you did last season to make sure, this season the opener turns out differently?
We've done things a lot differently than we did last year. I think in terms of hours worked and preparation, I think it's been the same in that respect. But again, we've made some changes to practice. Certainly, we've got new offensive and defensive coordinators. So we've done some things in terms of modifying how we practice. I think to help our defense. I think we've changed some things within our August schedule to help our guys stay fresh and stay more injury-free, if you will. And again, it's been a great 3 weeks of preparation, and the proof's going to be starting with what we do Friday night.
Does it seem different? Does it seem like you have a different feeling going into the game this year than last year?
Absolutely. Well, you've got a much different feeling with this team. It's a completely different team when you talk about, and I said this the other day, of the 105 young men in our program practicing to this point, 43 are brand new to our program. So we had Isaiah Sweeney came out to practice 2 weeks ago, who played receiver for us last year, and came over to me and said, "Coach, I don't know half these guys," and he was almost exactly correct on that. So it's a new team. We got a bunch of new faces on our coaching staff, and I've definitely got a different feeling in terms of entering this season.
Can you talk about the element that Larry McDuffie will bring on the outside?
Larry's had a nice camp, and again, when he is a familiar face to us this year. And a year ago, we were talking about a bunch of freshmen, and Larry's done a good job. He's gained some weight. Again, I think everybody knows we moved him from the inside receiver position, where he started for us last year, to what we call our X position outside, where Patrick Edwards played for us for a number of years. And he's done a good job. We're counting on him making plays for us, being dynamic when the ball's in his hands, and being able to stretch the field from that outside receiver position as well. He's got tremendous speed, and he's at a great camp.
And I know you kind of have a veteran offensive line. Are you expecting them to be a steadying force on the team?
Absolutely. And you know, we've got, when you look at their resumes, if you will, we've got 5 offensive linemen that have all started for us in the past. Ty Cloud now has been banged up, and I don't anticipate him playing much, if at all, Friday evening. But again, we've had the emergence of Zach Johnson, rather, at the right tackle position, so he'll start there. Rowdy, who's been a 2-year starter for us going in his junior year, will start. We'll move him in and bump him to left guard in place of Ty. Ralph Oragru is going to move over to left tackle position. Again, Bryce Redmond and Kevin Forsch will man the inside at center and right guard. So, you know, I think, again, I've said this, there's a number of ways to win football games. One of them, I believe, is controlling the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football, and we'll look to our offensive line to establish that to be successful offensively.
Tony, now that you've had a spring and a camp, can you kind of give us an idea of what your new coordinators on offense and defense have done, or at least what you've been able to accomplish, whether it's implementing stuff, you know, new stuff, or just kind of the whole, maybe the environment now with those two around? Well,
defensively, you know, David Gibbs has brought a ton of energy here, an energy that I haven't seen here among our defensive staff in the 6 years I've been here. We've simplified things defensively. Right now, when you look at our depth chart of our 11 defensive starters, I think 3 are seniors. George Bamfo at outside linebacker, Thomas Bates, and Zach McMillan at the 2 corner position. So we've simplified, but we're still going to be aggressive. I'm not going to get into publicly right now some specific schemes, but they will be very recognizable in terms of our fan base seeing what we're going to be doing here in the next couple of weeks. But again, talking about 3-4, 4-3, I continue to use the word hybrid, where we're going to see 3 down linemen and a 4th defensive lineman standing up with the ability to rush off the edge or drop into coverage, again, much like Sammy Brown did for us a few years ago. Offensively, Doug Meacham has brought back to our program kind of what we did with Dana Holgerson and Cliff Kingsbury, and I think what Travis Bush did a good job of getting to last year. Again, Coach Meacham comes from Oklahoma State, and he learned this offense under Dana Holgerson when Dana took it from Houston, Texas to Stillwater, and it's evolved a little bit. You know, I think in Lubbock you're going to see it evolve. I think in West Virginia you're going to see it evolve, and Doug Meacham coming here, having learned it from Dana Holgerson, and then having the work with Todd Monken, who came from the National Football League to Oklahoma State. You'll see some variations and some things where I think people that are diehard Houston fans and have followed us closely are going to be able to recognize, well, that's something that Coach Meacham has added to this style of offense.
Coach, you have Richie Leone's listed, punter, kicker, and kickoff. Obviously, you could see a lot of work, especially the first week. Plans on getting the freshmen involved some?
Yeah, we anticipate playing Ty Cummings. You know, he's extremely talented. I like his mental makeup. I think that's important for specialists, and he's a young man we plan on playing this year as a true freshman.
I know you said you liked your options at kick returner and punt return. Who are you targeting to be the starters at those?
Well, at punt return, we really narrowed it down to 3 guys right now. And again, I don't know. Bless you. David Bassity does the final depth chart, but I don't know if this is on there or not. But at starting punt returner Friday night will be Larry McDuffie, and the 2 backups will be Damian Payne and William Jackson. And at kickoff return, you're going to see a couple different faces out there. You're going to see Justin Hicks, who's a walk-on running back who had a great spring and has had a great camp, and true freshman DeMarcus Ayers, one of our inside receivers. And there could be a couple other guys back there, Daniel Spencer, Damian Payne possibly as well.
Tony, you had mentioned a couple weeks ago how many true freshmen could crack the 2 deep. I think there's 5 or 6 on there, a couple of them in multiple position. Mm-hmm. Can you just give us an idea on the decision to go with those guys, and specifically Ayers with him at kickoff and listed at wide receiver?
Well, it's what we tell the young men when we go through the recruiting process with them, and we don't promise anything, and certainly a lot of young men in high school and even their families will ask, well, what are his chances, or what are my chances of playing as a true freshman? And we always tell them that's up to you. And it's going to be based on two things: if you're physically ready to play, and if you're mentally ready to play. And if you are, and you break into the two deep, then you're going to play as a true freshman. I think with injuries and guys developing over the season, that could change. You know, DeMarcus Ayers has had a great camp, and he's a guy that's worked his way into the rotation, and he'll be playing early and often Friday night. So, you know, every year, in the 6 years I've been here, it's been about 9 to 10 true freshmen have played every year. We played 9 a year ago, and I anticipate that number this season being about the same.
Coach, I know you said that, you know, Pyland is going to start and then O'Corn is going to play. Is that like a first week thing, or is that going to continue throughout the season?
No, we're going to go into this first game with a specific plan at quarterback, and like we do all positions, and you know, kind of take it from there.
So, but I mean, like, do you anticipate having like one guy go the whole game, or is it going to be a split system the whole season, or?
We'll let you find out when Temple finds out.
Coach, I just, a lot of your players, you even said to get last year behind you kind of started. Can you just talk about the new season and kind of the new feeling?
Well, it's, you know, when you talk about last season or have questions about last season, you know, Joseph, a couple weeks ago, asked me what our motto was last season, and I said, I've forgotten everything from last season, and I certainly haven't, but, you know, it's kind of that old saying, we're looking through our windshield, we're not looking in the rearview mirror right now. We're moving ahead, and I think our team right now, and I say this and people can say, well, it's coach speak, but it really isn't. It's a completely different team than it was last season. Again, we've got 4 brand new full-time coaches on our staff. And when I talk about 43, and now with the addition of Markeith Amble's 44 guys in our program that weren't even here last year, it's got a whole new feel for it. And when you look at, I think one of the biggest examples, at least as a coach and someone certainly in the program and seeing it on a day-to-day basis, is sitting in here as a team last week and having our student athletes vote on 6 captains, and those captains being a sophomore, 3 juniors, and 2 seniors. So you get that tells me a lot, you know. And I think you see, certainly we're not allowed to be out there as coaches during the summertime, but I think the attendance in the weight room was as good as it's ever been, and I think I think the player run practices, I know they were great, because when the kids showed up 3 weeks ago to start practice again, we immediately noticed the improvement. So there's a lot of leadership right now within our program from our student athletes, and from freshmen all the way to 5th-year seniors. So it's a completely new team from last season. It's a completely new feeling, and again, that's why our guys and everybody involved in our program is excited just to get the season here and get the first game underway and get going.
Tony, at the start of camp, Coach Gibbs had mentioned that as far as the defensive mentality he wanted to bring, it wasn't a knock, but he said that he didn't feel like maybe U of H had been as strong mentally or you know, just in the past few years. But do you feel like that unit, particularly under Coach Gibbs, is one that you've seen big change as far as what he was talking about, and maybe not repeating last year by you know, having that kind of attitude?
Well, and I think, and again, I think you're getting at this when you ask that question. When you talk about maybe mentally, to me, it's confidence, and I think that's what you're referring to. And you know, I think historically and traditionally across the country, defensive coaches, specifically defensive coordinators, can see problems in many things and be negative by nature. And David Gibbs is not that at all. He's very, very confident. He's very positive. I think we've seen a change in our demeanor defensively from our student athletes. And again, I think we're going to see that starting Friday night. So I think defensively, we believe in a couple things, and notably, they've got to know what to do. So again, I mentioned this a number of times. We've simplified what we're doing defensively. We're still going to be aggressive, but we've simplified our package and allow them to play fast. So, you know, our kids have had a great camp. Again, I think they made major strides from when we saw them in last spring practice. And it's a confident bunch right now. And again, success breeds success and certainly more confidence. So I'm excited about them getting out Friday night and showing everybody what this year's defense is going to look like. But I anticipate vast improvement defensively.
Coach, preparing for week one against a team you're not very familiar with, what's the key there? Do you just sort of focus more on doing what you guys do well and maybe look at some tape of them from last year, or how do you prepare for that?
Well, they've got a new staff as well, and that's an excellent question. You know, because of the two things, because of being game number one and because of the new coaching staff and quite frankly, not a whole lot of film available on Southern, it's been about Houston, and that's exactly right. You know, our plan is to go out and execute offensively, execute defensively, and execute in the kicking game and do the things that we've got to do to win football games regardless of our opponent. You know, hold on to the football on offense, take it away on defense. We got to reduce penalties, specifically pre-snap and post-snap. We got to play great special teams. We've got to tackle well defensively. So there's a certain number of things that we're focused on, that whether we're playing Southern or Temple or Louisville or Rutgers, it doesn't matter. We've got to do those things. But yeah, I think it is unique to your question that this being the first opponent, new coaching staff, not a lot of video available, the emphasis has been on Houston more than Southern.
You mentioned a lot of young leadership this year. So how far do you think these young players will be able to take the team? Or are you looking more towards long-term, within the next few years, success?
Well, I think we're looking toward both. And I think when you have young leaders, I think in some guys that maybe are not voted captain, but that are going to be key contributors for your program, that may be freshmen, that may be sophomores, and even some juniors that never redshirted. So they're on Monday they started their fifth semester of college. I think a lot of that is coaching, and I think we've got to continue as coaches to bring them along, to cultivate their leadership and their growth and their maturity levels, because it's starting Friday night and really starting 3.5 weeks ago, but it gets to be an intense fall semester where now classes began. They've got a rigorous schedule in terms of meeting our nutritionist and eating every day, going to classes, going to study hall, going to see any tutors, and then meetings, and then practice, and then dinner, and then doing it over again the next day. So, you know, I'm excited about the fact that not only do we have the 6 captains, but that 3 are juniors and 1 is a sophomore. And I think that speaks volumes of the type of young men we have that are young in our program, if you will. And again, I think as coaches, we got to continue to bring them along and make sure you can't look back at the end of the season and evaluate. We've got to evaluate it on a daily basis, and if there's adjustments that need to be made, I think it's our job as coaches certainly to make those adjustments, to see those guys be able to speak and be heard.
Coach, just checking out your safeties, there's nobody on the 2 deep that is greater than a sophomore. What did Adrian McDonald show you to be able to win that position? Well, Adrian McDonald, he's a classic example, and I made him an example to our team a week and a half ago when we started having individual meetings over a 2-day period with our young men of, here's where we see your role being at this point. And he was a young man but in high school played quarterback and ran the football quite a bit. We knew he was a great athlete. And we offered him a scholarship and said, you're going to go play defense, which is something he had never done before. And he got here, did a great job in camp, but again, we're trying to evaluate on a 2.5, 3 week period and trying to get ready for that first game. So he was a young man that initially we were going to try to redshirt. We knew he had great ability, but again, playing a position that was really foreign to him. And he continued to develop over the course of the season, was on the scout team defense, was on all the scout special teams. And by, I don't know, it might have been 2/3 into the season, we made the decision, hey, this young man can help us. And before you know it, he was out there starting for us defensively. To me, if you'll recall, last August, Trayvon Stewart, every practice created a turnover, primarily getting interceptions.
Adrian McDonald is now in that role. I mean, I mentioned him going into our first scrimmage, and he comes up with an interception on the opening play, and then 2 plays later he forces a fumble and recovers it. So he's a guy that's always around the football, loves to play the game, is very instinctive, believe it or not, having only played defense for 1 year, and is always and loves to come up and tackle. He's one of our most sure tacklers. Anyone else? All right, we'll see you Friday night. Thank you.